every industry is male dominated.
All right.
Right? It's not only this, some are more, some are less. What really drives traction is very genderless. I think where gender does play a lot of role is, do you get the seat in the first place? Do you get entrance into the room of first place? Literally, there is a deafness around it because of years of conditioning. It's no more about execution only, it's about imagination. It's about, you have to imagine what is possible. Just one day just felt like, hey, like it's mine to have. Whatever has worked for you in the past is definitely not going to work for you in the future. My profitability is in sync with sustainability. I don't have to choose one over the other. I think the best form of energy is the energy that is not used, the energy that is conserved.
Hi, Pali, and welcome to the About Her Show, a show which is for trailblazing women to showcase themselves, to talk about their journeys, the ups and downs, successes, failures, all that they have faced in their lives, which not only gives them an opportunity to speak about themselves, but it also helps us inspire other women who are listening and watching the show. Several times women have dreams, aspirations, but for some reason are not able to follow those dreams. So we want women like you to inspire them. And along with women, we also get men on the show. Men who champion such trailblazing women because we believe that for a truly gender inclusive world, men and women need to be allies in this journey. Now, yours is a very, very interesting journey. I was looking at the kind of work that you've done from consulting, manufacturing, and now you're into AI and logistics. Very, very male dominated sectors as well. So, of course, we would love to know more about it, but it is so heartening and so inspiring to see women make a mark for themselves in sectors, in spaces which have known to be male dominated. So, once again, a very, very warm welcome to you, and let's dive in.
Thank you so much, Sangeeta. Very happy to be here on the show and have this opportunity to speak to you.
Thank you. So, as I mentioned, you've moved from consulting to manufacturing to consumer brands to running a deep tech company. Now, across all these various spaces that you've been in, what has stayed constant across all?
That's an interesting question. I get that a lot, because when you see my trajectory, it does come across as very varied and a little non-traditional.
Right.
But I think the two things that are common to the tapestry, right? The first thing is I've always taken up opportunities where, there was a problem to be solved. And there was no playbook that was available for solving that problem. So in consulting, it was often that, consultants often, at least back in when I was in consulting, consultants used to get called because there's something that the organization was, thinking through and unable to do on its own completely, right? So there were limitations, whether it was the strategy or it was the execution. When I joined industry, so for example, when I joined the RPG group, again, it was about setting up businesses that hadn't existed before.
Right.
And again, Taabi, exactly the same thing, right? The problem statement is how do I get an industry, a set of customers that are not really known for being digitally savvy at all, even at an average level, to something that's so cutting edge that it really, kind of transforms the business models, the cost pressures, and the fabric, through which the industry operates. So I think that has been consistent, that problem solving. And the second thing I have also looked at, Sangeeta, across, and this is something that I say in a lot of interactions publicly also, is that businesses and problems are multidimensional. You cannot look at a business and say that I'm going to be HR about it or sales about it or strategy about it, right? So that's the other thing that I think has remained very common, that I've loved looking at something from multiple lenses to understand what really is the crux that needs to be solved for. So I think that's always been the commonality, respective the function or the industry or the company that I've worked for.
All right. So, largely problem solving, different kinds of industries and different angles. So, that
Yes,
has what has stayed with you. Okay.
yes.
So, coming to this now, what drew you to the logistics and fleet management space specifically?
I mean, to be very frank, I don't think anybody grows up dreaming that I want to be in logistics and fleet management.
Okay.
But having come to this world and, so first I was experiencing it from the outside, right? So I was heading strategy. Then I was heading this fleet solutions business. What I understood was that everything is about logistics at the end of the day, right? I mean, jo chai aap peete ho, or the school bus that carries your kid,
Hmm.
the the plants that operate, multi-ton products,
Hmm.
everything. Like there isn't anything that is not touched by logistics,
Hmm.
and yet it is one of the laggards, especially in our country,
Hmm.
where it has, so while the pace of physical infrastructure has been amazing, like if you just see everything that is happening, but the digital infrastructure
Hmm.
that is very common to a lot of other industries is something that hasn't been there.
Right.
And that for me was very interesting, that hey, this is something that really touches everything
Hmm.
at the end of the day, and why aren't these fundamental problems getting solved? And that's what keeps me engaged, that there is so much that really can get impacted by technology here. Like it really is, if there was ever a marriage that would be very beneficial between an industry and technology, then I would put logistics right up there. So I didn't get into it very organically and aiming for it and all of that. But when I was pitching Taabi internally to the board at RPG that this is what we should do,
Hmm.
what made me do that was this: that there is so much scope in terms of problem solving, and there isn't yet a playbook that's available, at least for India.
Correct. So again, the problem solving. So you wanted to solve it in another way,
Yes,
digitally also.
yes,
All right.
yes.
So as I understand, Tabi works with mining, construction, and transportation, and which are some of the most male-dominated industries in India. So what has that reality been like for you as a woman CEO?
Okay, so first and foremost, let me say that every industry is male dominated.
All right.
Right? It's not only this. Some are more, some are less,
Hmm.
and especially when you look at the leadership,
Hmm.
you would typically find more males than females. Of course, things are moving and things are changing, etc. But that is a construct, and a lot of it is history, a lot of it is legacy, a lot of it is the biases and the conditioning and right to education, right to financial independence, like societally how we have looked at it, which, and workplaces are at the end of the day microcosms
Hmm.
of the society, and hence you see that reflected anywhere. Personally, for me, what's been quite amazing is that, of course, like because I'm a woman, I'm more visible.
Hmm.
uh, but what really drives traction is very genderless.
Okay.
Uh, it is credibility.
Hmm.
So if you are able to be in a room where maybe for a minute there's going to be a curiosity,
Hmm.
uh, but if you're saying the things from the perspective of you've been in the trenches, you understand ki, like something as simple as ki, just putting a fuel solution system or an ADAS is not going to drive change.
Hmm.
That I have to ensure that driver who's driving the truck doesn't feel threatened by this surveillance that is happening, on him,
Hmm.
or the fact that he feels supported by the technology as opposed to otherwise.
Right.
Or if I'm sitting across with an enterprise, I'm able to talk about what corridors or what lanes the efficiencies actually are versus what the organization is looking at. The moment the conversation switches to those things, I don't see gender playing a role. I think where gender does play a lot of role is, do you get the seat in the first place? Do you get entrance into the room of first place? And it doesn't happen at my level as a CEO. It happens at, when you're starting out in your career, when you're at a middle management, when you're not very used to just assuming that the seat is yours to have or the room is yours to work in. So that shift, as much as you would like everybody else to make space for you, but hey, the reality is the world is not like that.
Right.
So I think that's been my growing up, where just one day just felt like, hey, like it's mine to have,
Hmm. Hmm.
and the moment that switch happens, I think there are a lot of things that change.
Right.
And yeah, being effective at what you do is something that goes a long way in terms of
Correct.
barriers.
So yeah, I think it is getting that foot in the door, which is the most difficult. And once you get in there, then it is your credibility, your, how should I say, command over the subject, the space that you're in, that starts to make a difference as it should be.
Yes.
Right. So coming to you personally, you describe yourself as someone who thrives on uncertainty. So where does that come from?
So, see, uncertainty, a lot of people panic when they think of the word uncertainty. Like, I've always looked at uncertainty as an opportunity, like I said, right? That if there's uncertainty means there is no playbook that's available, right? So then it's no more about execution only, it's about imagination.
Hmm.
It's about, you have to imagine what is possible,
Right.
and you can then create something, right? Like, and I've loved doing that. I have loved creating assets that have survived past me,
Hmm.
right? That exists whether or not I exist in that role or in that context, and I love that, that whole building bit, right? And so one is the creation, then the even execution requires a lot of imagination, right? Like, one of the discoveries has been that you can't continue doing more of the same thing
Yes.
to solve for things, right? So, for example, I run a startup within a very established RPG group.
Hmm.
So, what works for other companies may not necessarily work for Taabi.
Right.
So, what are the things that need to be executed very differently for us versus rest of the group is something that needs to be created, thought through, and executed. And hence, I have always said that uncertainty is something um, that's always situation where I've thrived. And the second is, I mean, I don't want to use it's such a cliched word, but VUCA, right? I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, look at the stuff that's happening around us, right? I mean, gone are the days of 5-year plans or even 1-year plans, right? You're pretty much like, you're talking about supply chain resiliences, you're talking about global economic power shifts happening. You're
Hmm.
talking about technology that is being very, localized as opposed to very easily distributed across the world, right? Because it's becoming a source of competitive advantage. So it's all uncertain at the end of the day, right? Like, whatever's worked for you in the past is definitely not going to work for you in the future.
Hmm.
So it's been fun from that perspective as well.
Okay. Yeah, so you're right. Actually, uncertainty is an opportunity because I think it gives you a very, like a canvas to work on, something on
Yes,
which nothing has been done before. It is, you're starting from scratch. It's right there, before you,
yes,
and you can paint the picture according to what you want. So, yes,
absolutely.
definitely it's an opportunity. All right.
Yeah.
So, when we talk about AI adoption in logistics and all, it sounds very impressive. And of course, I'm sure it sounds compelling in a boardroom as well. But can it be, or is it a hard sell on the ground? I mean, how do you win people over? How do you explain it to them?
See, nobody buys AI. I mean, let
Mhm.
me be very frank. Sangeeta, मतलब मेरा customer तो नहीं खरीदता है, right? Like, my customers are hardcore mining companies, cement companies, steel companies, fleet operators, etc. And
Hmm.
I've seen this across businesses, right? What is brought is the value,
Right.
right? Now, I may use AI as one of the tools, and I do, right? So we are an AI native company. All my codes are AI generated.
Hmm.
Right. So it like pretty much the DNA of the company is AI.
Hmm.
All my solutions have AI embedded at the center of it. We are working on a lot of agentic, where my agents are automating decisions for these companies, right? But when I go and sit across a customer, the conversation is hardly ever about, hey, my AI does this. I mean, they would care the least about it.
Hmm. Hmm.
The conversation is always the fundamentals of a business. How
Right.
much am I spending? How much will I save? Will it impact my top line? Will it impact my bottom line? Will it be easy to use? Will my people be able to learn it? Will I have to displace something? Will behaviors actually change on the ground? Am I able to integrate it with other systems that I'm working with? The same age old problems that have been a part of all businesses, right?
Hmm.
And I'm putting it very simplistically, but this is the crux that I'm always observing that. Uh, and even enterprises that have a mandate key, let's that you need to do AI, and let's explore AI in supply chain, hence work with an operator like us. That conversation is a 5-minute long conversation. Then after that, it is about, yeah, but what is the use case? What benefit will happen? How much will I actually end up spending? So nobody wants it just as a logo key. I have done this, right? Like at the end of the day. So AI to that extent is a capability check. That do you have it in your stack? Is it making things better for me?
Right.
And how much is the impact of you bearing the cost of AI on me paying for the solution that has AI, right? Because there is no free lunch at the end of the day.
Hmm.
So the fundamentals are the same at the end of the day.
I can imagine because I guess at the end of the day, anybody who's using it has to look at their top line, bottom line. I mean, that is the crux of anything and everything people do. So, yes, they definitely need to be and are rightly concerned about it.
Yes.
So, tell me, Tabi has, as I understand, a sustainability dimension alongside the commercial one, right?
Yes.
So which are actually two ends of the spectrum. So, how do you hold both without one overshadowing the other?
So this is the part that I really love about my business, Sangeeta, that my PNL,
Hmm.
my profitability is in sync with sustainability. I don't have to choose one over the other.
Right. Hmm.
The ways in which I am being profitable are exactly the ways in which I'm being sustainable. So, give you an example, right? If I am lengthening the life of a fuel guzzler,
Hmm.
which can be a mining equipment or a large construction equipment, right? Like at a mining site, you'll have like thousands of liters of fuel that get used per asset per day. And if you're able to impact that by 10 or a 15%, there is a direct impact on your bottom line.
Hmm.
uh, there is also a direct impact on sustainability because you're not releasing that much of carbon, right?
Hmm.
And that's what I always say. I think the best form of energy is the energy that is not used, the energy that is conserved, right? Like, why do you need so many assets? Why can't the assets that you have work better?
Hmm.
Why should it take you 24 hours on a road when 12 hours would do?
Right.
Right? Why can't you use a route that is shorter? Why can't you predict that these are the roads that have potholes on them, or pavements are not there, or there is a julus that is happening, or the climate is going to take make an impact? Hence, I will not have X number of hours wasted, by a truck, which is releasing a lot of fuel. Right? These are the fundamental problems that we solve for. And while I'm doing that, it is great for sustainability.
Hmm.
So this is one of those cases where I feel like technology is what is allowing us to do this.
Yes. So actually, it is wonderful because both of them you are being able to serve both
Yes,
ends at the same time,
absolutely.
which makes a lot of sense.
Yes,
All right, so coming back to a woman centric question, because this is a woman centric podcast.
yes,
So
of
tell
course.
me, was there ever a moment early on in your career when the room pushed back simply because you were a woman? And if that happened, what did you do with that?
No, I haven't been in a room where I was pushed back just because I was a woman, but I have been in rooms where I have seen women not being listened to.
Hmm.
It's a very common thing that gets cited, and I've seen that in action where, a woman says something and the same thing a man says, and it just seems like the man was hurt
Yeah.
and the woman was not hurt, right? Like literally, there is a deafness around it because of years of conditioning.
Hmm.
And I have taken the opportunity to, kind of just amplify that voice, because since I have become conscious of it. But I have seen that this has happened, like these kind of biases, Sangeeta. I'm not, I'm not minimizing that, there is something called gender bias, but I also want to talk about there is so many biases that exist in meeting rooms and at workplaces, right? I see it in terms of age, I see it in terms of language, I see it in terms of religion, anything that feels and looks and talks a little different. There is, that immediate kind of perception that it must not be, good at A, B, C, D.
Hmm.
And the way I have frankly tackled at it is, I think the first step is awareness, right? The first step is awareness. I myself had this sort of a thing, where because of the tech space that I work in, I was speaking to somebody who was, I think, 57, 58, and I walked in with a lot of bias in that conversation.
Hmm.
That this person will not understand my word. This person will not be as fast as I want this person to be.
Hmm.
And similarly, like with women, there are a lot of these, and I've talked about it often, that these assumptions that get made without the person being asked.
Right.
Right? Like, for example, I keep talking about it as I was on a maternity leave and I was about to come back, and I got this call from, Anand Goenka saying that, hey, do you want to do this role in sales?
Hmm.
And I have forever felt amazing about it that, he didn't assume that ki, because I'm coming back from maternity, I will not be able to do this.
Right.
That I will need to organize my time, that I have a 6 month old at home, etc. Right? That paternalism
Hmm. Hmm.
where that you seem to be doing good by looking out for the woman. उसको यहाँ मत भेजो, ये सेफ नहीं है, उसको ये नौकरी मत दो because it may not be good for her, or or whatever, or she may not be exposed to all of this. Let's not. I think the needle shifts when you just ask that question, which is what I did in that interaction with this older person. I asked that person that, hey, do you know? And surprisingly, this person was amazing at it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and it's the same thing that I've seen consistently happen. That's what shifts the needles when you don't walk in with assuming that this is what the person can do or not do, but just ask that person plainly and give that opportunity to the person.
I absolutely agree. I think it is assumptions, where we go wrong.
Yeah, yeah,
Rather than assuming, just ask that person. I
yes,
mean, if they are unable to do it, they will say so. Why
absolutely,
will somebody take on something that they can't do? So
absolutely,
rather than just come walking in with your mind already made up, give that opportunity to the other person to decide for themselves.
absolutely,
All right.
yes.
So, Bali, when you're dealing with, inside the organization, and then, of course, you're dealing with clients as well, what is it one mindset shift you've had to drive most consistently, whether inside Tabi or with your clients?
Yeah, I think this is something that I used to lose track of often, let's say about 10, 12 years back, and it's been a shift in myself, is that at the end of the day, I mean, as cliched as it sounds, like everything is done or not done by people.
Hmm.
Right, that you may have the most beautiful transformation planned or a product introduced on the customer side or in your own team. But if you've not taken into account uh, who the stakeholders are, what are their what's in it for me,
Hmm.
their biases, their opportunities, a lot of things can fail. And I've seen that in multi-million dollar conversations, where uh, it sounds like it's about the project and the technology and the feasibility and the business and, the P&L, and you're assuming everybody is rational.
Right.
But there are two people in the room who are just responding in a way because they don't like each other,
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
right? So I think that's something that has happened over a period of time, uh, that it needs to be very structured in the approach when you're doing a business. That is not something that you can handle by the way, and when it comes, it has to be thought through and central to anything that you're doing, whether it is a strategy, whether it is a great structure, whether it is your rewards, whether it is your customer retention, customer success, right? Even when we do key account planning, we have a stakeholder mapping where we identify who is this person. Like there's a psychographic profile, right? How is the founder different from the manager? How is the first generation different from a second to a third? These are named people with what's a win for them, what's a problem statement for them. That's what you're solving for.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then there are greater chances of it being successful.
Yeah.
So that's been a learning.
So I think, in a
Yeah.
way, what you're saying is that being able to cater to different people, different kinds of situations is what a problem solving should be all about.
Yeah, and being planned for it,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
like design for it as opposed to you'll wing it when the problem happens.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's true.
Yeah.
Right. So tell me, when it comes to women and these deep tech and industrial sectors,
Mhm.
what needs to change according to you structurally, not just inspirationally for more women to move into these spaces?
So, I mean, I've always believed that everything starts at the top, right? So, people look for mirrors everywhere. So,
Hmm.
if you have more leaders at the top, there'll be more leaders that kind of, get created at every level.
Hmm.
Uh, just by, giving jobs that are easy to give to women,
Hmm.
traditionally that have been thought कि ये दे दो, like ये तो accounting है or secretarial है or whatever those biases are. I don't want to amplify them by talking about them, but not uh, they don't get solved on their own, right? So structurally, when you are saying that my factory shop floor, like for example, Seat did that, right? There are quite a few shop floors where there are women who are handling machines, who are handling material, and there's no assumption made that you have to, solve for it. The that it will be a problem statement that they will not be able to do this. I mean, in my previous role, when I was looking at sales at Seat, one of the changes that we made was, often there would be women who would not be put into certain territories. In fact, I'd started this out when I was with Unilever. Also, I saw that
Hmm.
there were certain parts of UP and etc. where women would not be sent because you'd be like, इसमें यहाँ पे facilities नहीं है या यहाँ पे safety नहीं है, etc. Right? But
Hmm.
structurally, you have to enable them, right? Like because the jobs will just keep shrinking.
Hmm. Hmm.
Can you give period leave, for example? If it is difficult in a territory to handle periods,
Hmm. Hmm.
uh, because the things don't exist. Can you create those infrastructure facilities so that you're solving for it systematically?
Right. Yeah.
Can you train women specifically in jobs where they have traditionally, which happens in my sector? I
Hmm.
don't get a lot of CVs of women
Hmm.
uh, because there is a bias that exists कि ये तो logistics और transportation है, ये मेरे लिए मुश्किल होगा. So
Correct.
how do we go to campuses and tell people, see, these are the jobs that are available and they're no different from any other job anywhere.
Hmm.
And at the end of the day, it has to be done. So I think what you're bang on is that the shift has to be structural in terms of infrastructure creation, leadership hiring at the top, policies, and just giving the opportunities to the women and letting them decide, as opposed to you deciding for them.
Yeah, yeah. So yes, you're so right. If there are issues, if there are, you see, there are things that are not available. When you
Yeah.
say that they cannot go to the interiors or in some parts of the country, then enable them. Make
Yes.
those facilities available. It is for you. You
Yes.
cannot say that women cannot do it just because you cannot make those facilities available. It's as simple
Absolutely.
as that. Like they say, where
Exactly.
there is a will, there is a way.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. You can make it happen if you want to
Yeah.
make it happen. All
Yeah.
right.
It's important for the business too, Sangeeta, like we have lot of metrics that prove that, having an equal ratio in terms of diversity of all kinds
Absolutely.
has an impact on top line by as much as 15 to 20% over a period of time. So it's good for business too. I mean, you're not doing this for charity. You're doing this because it's
Absolutely.
good for the business.
That is something that needs to be, I think, explained very well. And I always say there's a difference between equality and equity. So just get that in place and then do it.
Abs- Absolutely.
All right. So tell me, Pali, what has running a company taught you about yourself that your consulting years could not?
I don't think it's as much as about consulting versus running a company. I think it's also a lot about how experiences and skills accumulate
Right.
and then, kind of culminate into something, which is what I say about the company. But I think the shift between, when you are just in a job, how much ever high profile it may be, versus when you are running a company, is that you're very aware of how this could affect livelihood of hundreds of people.
Hmm.
You are like, what keeps me up at night is that this needs to do well because it supports that all my trucks need to be on the road running, because if they stop, somebody gets a penalty from a customer and they may miss an EMI because of that.
Hmm.
uh, it impacts me that if I don't do well as a business, then I may not be able to afford as many people that I have and ask people to go, right? These were never the uncomfortable decisions that frankly was there, right? It was always the clients when I was a
Yeah, yeah.
consultant. But in a company, that is something that you're very acutely aware of the impact that what you do or you don't do has on everybody else. One of the things that I was just discussing with my HR today, it's an appraisal cycle and all, is that that there is this whole perception of me that I may come across as intimidating,
Okay.
and I have always discounted that. I had always thought it's okay, it's your opinion to figure out, right? Like
Hmm.
you get to know me because I know what I am, sort of thing. But over the past few years, like I have been actively working on ensuring that I don't get in the way of somebody being able to reach out to me,
Right.
being able to, that it's not enough that my work is good and the company is doing well and everything else, these softer aspects where it is impacting somebody psychologically or financially or their business, is something that becomes very important when you're running a company. You are signaling all the time, you are impacting all the time, and I think it's a huge responsibility.
Yes. So I think that is where the major shift takes place. I mean, you have to own a larger part and, significantly larger part of the business than what you were doing when you're doing it for a client, right?
Yes.
I think
Yes.
there you're consulting, here you're responsible for everything.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
So tell me, if you could redesign one thing about how organizations identify future leaders, what would it be?
I think one thing I would change is don't build future leaders based on history,
Okay.
right? So, performance is not the only indicator of potential. These
Okay.
are two very different things. Um, when you are building future leaders, it's very important to think of the context in which you're building the leaders. So for example, in the past I may have rewarded somebody who's been a consistent performer, has done things by the book, in terms of there's six things given and all the six things are ticked off, and is great with teams, etc. But there may be a context in the future where you want somebody to be 100x on one thing, and
Right.
it's okay to be it's okay for the other things to not be that great.
Mm,
right? And I'm not talking about fundamental things like integrity and you're nice and you're respectful and stuff like that, right?
mm,
But I'm just talking about that typically you had like a plethora of things that you wanted somebody to tick mark on
mhm,
before you became a leader. But I think in the future, the leadership is also going to be about that X factor. That and X factor always comes off at the expense of something else,
mm,
depending upon the stage of the organization you are, right? So it's your ability as an organization to give them the right environment to thrive, rather than their ability to fix into all the boxes that you've created for them to fit into. So
mm,
it's vice versa, right? How fluid you're able to make this box for a person to fit their skill sets, their aspirations, is
mm.
your best chance of extracting the best out of talent. So this whole thing about where the talent comes in fits into your mold is something that's absolutely gone.
Very interesting. I mean, what I have usually come across is where there are, in a way, certain slots and certain check boxes, and people have to fit in those, and that is how they progress.
Yeah.
But you're so right. You may have to customize those check boxes according to what you're getting. And also, future is so important because is totally different,
Yes,
completely different from what has happened in the past, or, for that matter, what is happening right now. So you
abs-
have to ensure that the person also fits into the future scheme of things.
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So, Pali, 5 years from now, what would make you feel that this work that you're doing right now truly mattered?
I mean, I would love for Tabi to be, a very uh, working on its own sustainable business that is and our game always has been, our north star always has been that we bring ROI to every customer that we work with.
Hmm.
And that is something that I think if we are able to do at scale,
Hmm.
and that's where the switch is happening right now, and I see the early shoots happening. Uh, and there is an organization that is thriving on its own because of the systems, the processes, the products, the customers feeding on each other, multiple geographies. Then I think it's a job well done. I think a place where the organization doesn't need me,
Yes.
uh, where the problem is solved, is I think is something that I think I would get great satisfaction from.
So it is the legacy that you create and which carries on with or without you. I think that
Absolutely.
is the mark of a true leader.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so Pali, why we've come to the end of the conversation, we
Mhm.
still have one little thing to do, which is a round called the reveal. Now, this
Oh,
is
okay.
a round which is like, five quick questions, rapid fire kind of questions, where whatever answer comes first to your head, that
Yeah.
is what you have to tell us. All right.
Okay, all right, sure.
So, are you ready for it?
Yes.
All right. The first one. One word that describes your leadership style.
Accommodating.
Okay. Okay. Then the next one. The quality you look for when you first hire.
Competence.
Okay. The next. Your go to advice for women starting out in male dominated sectors.
Say yes, think later.
Okay. Fine. That sounds good. The next one. A habit that keeps you grounded when things get hectic.
Write it on paper.
Okay. Interesting. And finally, a myth about being a CEO that you would love to bust.
That we have no life, that it is a 24 by 7 ground. I think wo sab dikhawa hai. You can be very effective in your 7, 8 hours of work, and you can let other people also have a life.
Wonderful. I think that is something which a lot of not only CEOs but people need to understand. Because
Yes.
a lot of people feel that your capability, performance, everything is directly proportional to the amount of time you spend
Yeah.
at your desk, which is not
Absolutely.
necessary at all.
It's such a huge waste, Sangeeta, frankly, like electricity, food, all of that.
Yes.
On a lighter note, it doesn't help. You stop producing output after 7, 8 hours. It's just not possible beyond that. So,
All right.
yeah.
So thank you so much. Wonderful having you on the show, and this very, very fascinating conversation about the space that you work in, your views as a woman, and how it is. Because I think, women like you can be great role models. Young girls can look up to you and aspire to be where you are and maybe more. So thank you so much. It was indeed wonderful talking to you.
Likewise, Sangeeta, I think you're doing great work with this show, and just creating this forum for just people to have reference points to. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning in to the About Her show. If you enjoyed this episode, there's plenty more from where that came from. Our previous guests have shared some amazing stories, so be sure to catch up on past episodes. To keep up with our inspiring conversations and to never miss an update, hit subscribe, rate, review, and share the love. Follow us on social media for some great content, and don't forget to check out our website www.aboutherbysangeeta.com for stories that resonate, inspire, and empower. Know a remarkable woman or an inspiring man blazing a trail? We'd love to hear from you. Drop us a note at web.abouther@gmail.com and let's bring their story to life on the About Her show.